Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Break in the Game Show here on the Nothing But Net channel on Dash Radio. I'm Stephen Gillespie, and today we are continuing our NBA player tiers. You guys were with us last week when we discussed Tier 4, which were our super starters. This week, we're moving on up in the NBA world. We're discussing Tier 3, the Demi-Stars. Now, a Demi-Star, if you're wondering, is better than a super starter, but not quite at a star level yet. Obviously there were some projections and things of that nature in our last episode. Yes, rookies are going to be included, and we're not done talking about them yet. But this may be the last time that we talk about them. Wink, wink. But anyway, just like I had last time, I got another group of just awesome men from the Off the Ball Network, and it's going to be kind of one of them barbershop type discussions. We're not going to get too deep into the analytics. We're going to talk about players, where they fare in the NBA, and all of that jazz. And without further ado, let's go ahead and go around the horn. First off, I want to introduce Justin Patton, JP the franchise, over at the Off the Ball Network. Justin, how we doing today, man?
Man, thank y'all for having me, man. I'm blessed and thankful to be finally doing Breaking the Game with Steven too as well. So thank you for having me on.
Oh, man, pleasure is all mine. You're doing a lot of great things for the network. It was only a matter of time before you made your Breaking the Game debut here with me on the Nothing But Net channel on Dash Radio. You just had to pay your dues, baby, but you're here. You made it. You're big time. Let's go. Let's go. Yes. All right. And then speaking of big time, I couldn't, I'm surprised I said big time yet without mentioning the guy that you're going to listen to when you're done listening to this show again, because he follows me up. Actually, he bats cleanup. We'll put it like that. He bats cleanup for me after my show, Breaking the Game. The host of the Up in Flames show, VP of the Off the Ball Network, Mr. Up in Flames, Mr. Solo Mo, Mr. La Mohio State himself, Mo Murphy. What's up, brother? How we doing?
Bro, look, the introduction you gave me is like, so for everybody listening, you're going to listen to my show afterwards and you realize I have a tough act to follow. It's not vice versa. Steven doesn't prepare his show to make sure he makes me look bad. I prepare my show to make sure I don't look bad. So there's a difference. Don't let him fool you about me following up. But Steven, as always, bro, it's Off the Ball Network Mondays. I love being on here. I mean, to hear our voices just all day Monday on Dash Radio is just, what better feeling than that?
Oh, dude, it's so cool. And whenever, discussing with the powers that be here on the Nothing But Net channel on Dash Radio, my new time slot, because, things had to get moved or what have you. When they told me that I could be, first at bat for Off the Ball Mondays, followed by you, followed by Chris, and then later in the evening, you're going to listen to the Hoopers. I was like, that's dope. Off the Ball Mondays. Let's go. We can rule a whole day here. And there ain't nothing wrong with that at all. Love it, love it, love it. All right, gentlemen. So, JP, you weren't here for the Tier 4, but you did get the list. Before we move on, just was there anybody in Tier 4 that you kind of disagreed with that should move up or that shouldn't be on the list at all? Kind of putting you on the spot here.
Oh man. Yeah, I was looking at the tier list and everything, and I agree with the list, though, to be honest with you and all that. I think that was a really good list that you put out and everything, definitely, I wasn't really shocked at the list at all. I thought, those are like the people that, is going to be mostly like a starter, but then they can always improve their game and always improve their stats and can go into the next tier and everything. So I was very impressed with the list. I was very impressed. I didn't have no disagreement. My hair was not going to explode at all times. I didn't want everyone looking at me with a mad face and all that. But me and Steven actually had like the same analysis and all that. So definitely, I like it. I like it.
Well, and that's why I got you on here. If you think like me, then you must be doing something right? Like that's how society works now. We got the same mindset, so we can be friends, right? So, and just to kind of warn everybody, there's going to be a little bit of disagreement on the show, but I love that. I love that we don't just have an echo chamber here where everybody's going to be saying the same thing, thinking the same way. And JP, we do have rookies on this list. I don't know how that rubs you, but my buddy Mo here, he doesn't like rookies being on my list, but he accepted.
I didn't like it.
He accepted it. He understood where I was coming from. He just would not have done it that way.
Yeah, I just had to ask my question. Like when I seen the rookies, I just had to ask where you're coming from. It's not even that I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have done it that way. I stay away from rookies just for projections. But when you put it how you put it, I'm like, okay, well, I mean, if I was to get inside Steven head, and I'm like, well, let me project the Demi-Stars, the stars, or even the MVPs, and you don't have rookies at MVP. But if I was to do that, like, okay, then he's not wrong. Like, to me, after seeing the list, like, you put the guys from this rookie class pretty much where I could see them, so I can't argue with it. I just stay away from rookies as a whole just because, like, I don't want to downplay them or upsell them. Like, I don't want to sell them too high, but play them too low when they could be here. But seeing the names that you put everywhere, I mean, I don't disagree with nothing that you did with the rookies.
All right, well, fair enough. And JP, how you feel about the rookies being on the board here, brother?
I'm more like the type of person that I want to see, like, I want to see them prove that they can be in the tiers and all that. They haven't got into the NBA game yet, the official one and everything. I feel like they shouldn't be on this list. I've seen 2 of them on this list, and I'm just like debating myself. Like, I would much rather just keep them off the list because, like, I love Michael Jordan. I have his like mindset. He's like, don't put me in like the top in his rookie year. He said this. He's like, don't put me in this with Magic Johnson and Larry Bird that people was trying to put him at. He's like, I'm at the bottom of the totem pole. I want to work my way up on it. So that's how I feel. Like, I just don't like rookies be on this list, but I understand the future projection because, when you play like 2K or Madden, you're going to have your rookies in your 70s instead of the 50s and all that because you're trying to project where they could be in the future. So I kind of understand where you're coming from. But if it was my list, I wouldn't put any rookie on there. I wouldn't do it.
And I see, Mo, it looks like you're kind of he's speaking to your heart a little bit here, right?
No, he's actually not. I just want to say before we get into it, JP, just remember that you said that. Remember that you said you want people to earn their status somewhere else because it's going to fire back on you later in the show, and we'll talk about it. But, Steve and I digress. But Steve and I digress. I just want you to remember that the words that you just said are going to be used in the same light against you. So, I'm just glad you got that out. That's it.
Anything you say can be used against you in the court of
court of law, in the court of Stephen on breaking the game, and they about to be using the court of Stephen on breaking the game.
All right, well,
guilty.
Please assist. All right, so I told y'all this is going to be a little bit of a barbershop style discussion here, and we're already kicking it off right, and we haven't even gotten to the tier yet. So introducing tier 3. I'm going to pull up the graphic for all you fine folks watching live. And I'm trying to improve my, little photo editing game, so to speak here.
Great.
I appreciate
it. Looks good.
Thank you so much. I'm trying to get like everybody else on the interweb. But so for all you fine folks watching, you can see here, we got the players that are going to be covered on the list pulled up. But for all you fine folks that are listening here on the Nothing But Net channel on Dash Radio, just as always, thank you so much for following and listening to us. And what we're going to do is we're going to do what we did last time, and we're going to break this up into, just a little group of let's do 20. Well, I got 40 players. We'll break it up into 2 groups of 20, and we'll kind of talk about guys that stick out based on, the names called and the panelists that I have here. So the first group of 20, we have Michael Porter Jr. as a Demi-Star, CJ McCollum, Jamal Murray, Drew Holiday, the NBA champion, Ja Morant, more on him here in just a little bit, I'm sure, Tobias Harris, DeAndre Ayton, Darren Fox, Jaylen Brown, Colin Sexton, Brandon Ingram, Nikola Vucevic, Jeremy Grant, DeMar DeRozan, Pascal Siakam, our Off the Ball Network's very own Julius Randle, Malcolm Brogdon, Terry Rozier, Domantas Sabonis, and closing out the first group, Fred VanVleet. All right, so JP, I'm going to turn it over to you. Based off of those first 20 names that I have listed off, what do you think?
Oh man, I think they're in the right spot. I don't have like any bias over it. The Ja Morant, we'll talk about that later. I think that these are players that look like they're really proven in terms of like, what they did and everything, but haven't gotten into that, tier 2 yet. Michael Porter Jr. got a lot of potential. I just think, that Denver system's kind of hard because you have Jamal Murray and Joker and the Joker right there, doing what they have to do. Darren Fox was a really good choice because I feel like he's so underrated just because, he plays on a bad Sacramento team, but we look at his stats just pop out to you the way he plays. Colin Sexton. I was kind of just back and forth with Colin Sexton, but his stat. I looked at his stats and he averaged 20 a game. For Cleveland, they're just a bad team and everything. Julius Randle definitely improved so much this year. So I didn't have no problem with him being a tier 3 and everything. Sabonis definitely is going to come up. I just think Indiana, they're just missing something, and then with Carlisle being the coach, maybe we might see, Sabonis pop out, and hopefully, he proves himself more and make another all-star. He could get into that tier 2. I think he's very underrated. Fred VanVleet, definitely, he's probably still gonna be a tier 3. I think him and Pascal, they're not gonna go to the tier 2 because I said, on a video, that I didn't put out yet, that Fleet and Pascal are not going to be your key franchise guys. They're going to be good players that you could build around, but they're not going to be the players that you can, go to the next level and to win a championship. So, but I like the list.
Okay. All right. So Mo ran through the first list of guys. JP gave a little, synopsis on each one of the guys that stuck out to him. How about you? Where are you feeling on this first group of 20 in tier 3?
So we'll let JP plead his case, I assume, a little bit later. So Steven, I just want to ask a question.
Sure.
And then, so, we have our arguments, you always shout out the group chat. So we had our arguments. And there's one guy I feel like that's on this list that could be a little disrespected. But of course, you wouldn't disrespect him because you are very high on a lot of guys. So I just want to hear your thoughts on him before I say I'm disappointed for the first time ever in Steven's life. I'm disappointed in you. Vucevic. Okay. Why do you have him as a demi-star and not as a star?
Okay, so here's the thing. He looks really good on a bad team, and I think that's what demi-stars can do for the NBA public. On a bad team, they look good. But when he went to Chicago, and granted it was a short sample, and we didn't really get a lot of time for him to gel with, Levine and Kobe White and the rest of the gang there. He's a really solid player. But Mo, let me ask you this. We talked about the tiers and kind of how I broke them down. Do you think that he's capable of being a team's second best player on a championship level team?
I think so.
Do you think he could be a team's second best player?
I do, but see the on your stars list, I think so. I'm not upset that he's here because like the argument to move him up, you could derail the argument completely, and I've evaluated both sides of the argument to realize like, I could lose. But with Vucevic, like I feel like you're getting a 20-10 guy, right? At least I'd say probably 20-12. So if he gets acclimated to the right team, I think the difference between him and y'all will hear in the future who's on the stars. I think for him to be a star, he has to be matched up with the right guy. And so you would have to find out who the right guy is because I'm not sure that Vucevic being the second best player on the team, well, it depends on who the first best player on the team is. Yep. And it also depends on who the third best player on the team is. So that like big 3, 1, 2, 3 punch, it would, but I do think if you match a 3 up right, he could be the second best player. But like I said, it would take a lot more breaking down to where I could move him up from here. And I understood that with asking the question. So I just wanted to see why you had him here and not at stars, because I think initially making these rankings, I might have put him at stars. But then like if I thought about it and put some, clearly like you did, you put some thought into it and you're like, let me put him at demi-stars because that's where he belongs after putting thought into it. Because I do agree, if I had to put that much thought into why he should be a star, then maybe he's in the demi-stars until proven otherwise. But I just wanted to get your take on why you have him here, just to make sure, because I'm very high on Vucevic. And like you said, I mean, he was all-star level on a bad Orlando team.
Yeah.
But I don't want to knock him for what he did in Chicago, because I think this year will be telling because I expect him to be the second best player on this team this year.
That's where I was going to go. And I want to turn this over to JP to get his take on this too. So JP, Mo brings up the point that he thinks Vooch could be the second best player on a really good team. Well, Chicago acquired him this past season midway through. And then they also added DeMar DeRozan. And then you also added Lonzo Ball. And we're going to talk about him more too, right? So arguably there's 3, maybe 4. It depends on how you feel about Lonzo Ball, right? So there's 3 or 4 really good players on this Chicago Bulls team, at least on paper. The fit has to be there, which is what I'm curious about with Chicago and defense. But JP, you have Zach LaVine, who is Mr. Chicago right now. You've added DeMar DeRozan, who everybody loved, right? So do you think that Vucevic could be the better player on this Chicago team than DeMar DeRozan? Where do you see him falling in this new Chicago team?
I think Vucevic will play as well in Chicago. I think that, he can easily be the second best player behind LaVine and everything because, like Mo said, he's a 20 and 10 guy, a guy that can average 20 and get 10 rebounds for you. The DeMar DeRozan thing, that was a very interesting signing because I didn't know what they were trying to do, if they were trying to add more scoring, because DeMar is not like a defensive player. He's very shaky on defense and all that. But I just think he could. I want him to be the second best player. He has potential to get into the tier 2 a little bit, probably but he just have been on a, like you said, a bad Orlando team and everything, but he still had, all-star, consistent all-star games each year. So he has potential, but it's going to be tough because, the chemistry there, who's going to be like the second best guy, like you say, you just got Lonzo Ball and stuff. So are they going to be a playoff team? Perhaps. I don't know. So it really just depends. It really just depends though. But Vucevic got a lot of potential. I love his game. I watch him in Orlando. I love his game. So I would love for him to be the second best player, but the DeMar DeRozan one, DeMar might end up being the second scoring option, and Vucevic might be the third. Might be. So,
and that's where I'm at too. And just to kind of give the listeners a little bit more context, what we're going to be talking about later. This is a tier group of 40. Tier 2 only has 19 players. So like, I'm not just giving everybody high praise, so to speak. I feel like I'm being a little bit more reserved with the number of players that I'm allowing to be in each tier. Right. And I think when we're talking about particularly Demi-Stars, I think that this conversation is a pretty good snapshot of what I think a Demi-Star is. When we're talking about it depends on who's the guy ahead or behind him, right? When I look up at the tier 2 guys that I have, I think that those guys are stars no matter what. You know what I mean? And when we're talking about a Vucevic, it's kind of like, yeah, maybe he could be depending on who the best player is, who the third player is. That's what I think in a nutshell, a Demi-Star is. They're good enough, right? Depending on fit, depending on players around them, to where they can look really, really good. But it's they will thrive in the perfect situation, but they don't go to a team and make a perfect situation. Mo, if that makes sense.
Makes 100% sense. I can't argue or disagree with your list at all. Steven, I'm gonna ask you, are we getting in a Ja now, or are we waiting until you finish the last 20 to talk about this Ja situation?
We got his name fresh off the top of our heads. And JP, I'm gonna go ahead and dish it right back to you. And first off, JP, hats off to you because you're already outnumbered based on the conversation that we had earlier in the group chat. But
so good luck.
The case that you pointed out was that you believe that Ja Morant is actually a little bit lower. And then just to give further context to the conversation that we had, these are just tiers, right? Like, I'm not saying that each one of these guys are 100% exactly the same as each other, but when we're grouping them into large, pools of players, I feel like these guys are tier 3. I don't think that Ja is that next level yet, but if I were to rank the players within the tier, Ja would probably be at the top. Like off the top of my head, probably a top 3. I didn't rank them. I just grouped them into tiers. So JP, what's your argument for Ja Morant being a little bit too low here?
Yeah, I just thought that Ja would probably be at least in the tier 2 and everything, just because he's definitely one of those players that is like he's improving. I'm just looking at the eye test. I don't really look at the stats and everything. I'm looking at the eye test and all that. And they made the playoffs and all that. And yeah, it was probably like a down year for Ja, just because he had that injury. He missed however many games and everything. But like when you look at it at the beginning, before he had the injury, Ja was putting up numbers. He was putting up, he dropped 44 one night before he got that injury. And then, it's kind of hard when you're coming back from that injury and slowly you're trying to come back and get into the rhythm that you are and all that. And I feel like, with that team, in the playoffs, he averaged 30 on a Utah Jazz team. That was probably the best team in the West, at that time in the playoffs. So I thought Ja really improved, and then he's only just getting better. He just needs to improve his free throw shooting and his 3-point percentage and everything. But Ja got the credentials, to be, the star and all that. It's kind of tough because the West is so loaded. It's a point guard dominated position. You can name, Steph and Lillard and CP3. I didn't want to put him over Trae Young because I thought Ja would be better than Trae Young, but then Trae kind of proved me wrong in the playoff success and what he could do for the Atlanta Hawks team to get deep in the playoffs and everything. So then I would put Trae a little bit over Ja. But, where he's playing at in Memphis, kind of hurts him. If he was in the East, it might be a little bit different. You probably could see him already in the All-Star game if he was in the East. But so I thought he would have credentials to be not like in the top of tier, 2, but just like a little bit kind of coming up like towards the bottom of tier 2. That's what I would put John at, because he's a top 30 player in the NBA.
All right. Well, and sticking with that, Mo, before I turn it over to you, if you add the number of players that I have in tier 1 and 2, that's 27 players. So not even quite at that top 30 where I have tiers 1 and 2. So I'm being a little bit more selective, right? And Mo, I'll turn this over to you real quick. That the argument was just said that if Ja was in the East, he probably would have been an All-Star. But Trae Young over in the East wasn't named an All-Star. And I think that we would all take right now Trae Young over a Ja Morant, right? So
yeah,
it's really tough, right? And this is not a case of me not loving Ja. Truth be told, I'm a huge Ja guy. I love Ja Morant. But, the tiers are both conferences combined. Mo, you brought up a really good point earlier about, maybe people are a little bit too infatuated with Ja because we see what he is going to be. But with these projections, this is where we think that he's going to be during the season, right?
Yeah. So JP, I listened to everything you said, and I listened closely because like Steven said previously, you're outnumbered. We've had this argument before, so I listened to what I'd be able to pick apart based off what you said. So we're gonna start here. You say he's a top 30. So no, we're gonna start basic. Steven already covered it. You say he's a top 30 player. Well, Steven would have him top 3 in this list. And based off what he has as stars and MVPs, he's a top 30 player. So therefore,
at 30.
He's sitting right at Demi-Stars. That's 1. 2, you brought up the Eastern and Western Conference. Steven debunked that by saying this isn't about East and West. This isn't about making an all-star game. This is about where I see you talent level right now. Boom. Steven debunked that. And the argument could be, well, if he was in the Eastern Conference, well, Trae Young did make it. You said yourself, you probably wouldn't take him over Trae Young. Trae Young got your vote. So therefore, boom, that argument's out the window. So now let's talk about another thing. And I'm not trying to get on you.
Barbershop, folks. Barbershop.
Yep. I just want you to be able to understand where Ja Morant really the elite company that he's at. Even if he is the elite of the elite in this company, this is some very elite company. Look at if you're watching live, look at the pictures of the guys. I mean, these were some guys were the best players on playoff teams. Like, let's not get that out of context. So let's look at John Wall. We haven't talked about him yet, so I'm not going to talk about him much, but he's on this, and he's on this graphic. John Wall in year 3 of the NBA. Is him and John Morant not identical as to what they did for their team and where their team was at in the playoff race? They're very identical. John Wall carried a team, wasn't that good. We could pick apart that if John Wall was on a better team with better supporting cast, he'd be higher on a list. He'd be more of an all-star. But they're very similar. Derrick Rose would be a guy to compare him to, but Derrick Rose did it at a more elite level. Winning MVP by I think his 3rd, 4th year at the latest in his career. So now we could put him on what will make him a star. Well, he hasn't done what Derrick Rose did. So we put him at the John Wall level. John Wall has basically been a Demi-Star his whole career up to this point. They're pretty much the same player. There's about 4 guys that I compare that games are similar, but you can pick apart their differences. That's Dwyane Wade, who is now retired, John Wall, Derrick Rose, Russell Westbrook. I think John Morant is cut from that same cloth. He's the cloth. Dwyane Wade is the epitome of that type of play style. He's the superstar version of that play style. Russell Westbrook, the very elite. He's the star version of that play style. John Wall and Derrick Rose is also the star version at best of that play style. John Wall is the Demi-Star version of that play style. I think that's where John Morant is right now. And I think he could be a star, and I think Steven would agree. So, it's not to say that Steven doesn't think this is where he has him right now, but I think after this season,
John Wall.
Yeah, Steven will come into his star category, and John Morant will be there. But I don't want one playoff series give a guy too much credit. This is only the first 20. There's another 20, and there's another guy in this. He's on this graphic. Steven will say his name, and it will make a lot of sense. But there's another guy who is arguably, and I'd give or take on the argument whether you think so or not, is better than John Morant on this list. He's in the Demi-Stars list, and I think he's rightfully so in the Demi-Stars list, but he could be better than John Morant at his own position. I don't think John Morant is the top 5 point guard. I really don't believe it, especially right now. Going into next season, I could argue it. I can't say I disagree if you have him at 5, but I can't say I disagree if you don't. I don't know if he's a top 5 at his position, and it's okay. Point guard is the most elite position in the NBA right now. When you really look at where everybody's at in their careers and what they're doing, point guard is probably the most elite position in the NBA. Wing used to be, but when we're looking at point guards, top to bottom, point guards is ridiculous. I mean, we could argue. Just look at the Demi-Stars, bro. There's some solid point guards where I'm like, oh my God, they're really legit. So I love the point guard position. But John may not be top 5 at his position. So how are you a star in Steven's eyes, which would make it a high-level all-star in my eyes, same tier, if you're not top 5 at your position? That's tough. And I don't rank positions based on conference. I don't rate positions based on, circumstance. I'm ranking on your talent level and what you bring to the floor night in and night out. That's all I can bring. I can factor in, JJJ is his second best player as opposed to another guy. But at the end of the day, bro, I bring what you bring to the floor every night. I don't discredit you for what's around you. I don't build you more credit for what's around you. I don't take away from your circumstance. This is your circumstance. What do you do with it? I just don't. I see John Morant at the top of this list.
We lost our guy mid-rant. All right. Oh,
I'm sorry.
There we go.
I was saying, I feel like I said all that to say that John Wall is the top of this list. John Morant is the top of this list, but he's not out of this list.
Yep, and that's where I'm at too. And just to kind of, Mo, love the passion, brother. Love all that. I love John Wall. I love John Morant. And Mo, you brought up several good points here about John Morant. And again, it's not to say that he won't ever break through this glass ceiling. I think that he will. It's only a matter of time. But I'm just looking at it. I don't think he's there yet. And just real quick, we got a couple people in the comment section I want to point out. First off, Daniel Artest of the Daniel Artest Pod said, "What's good, fellas? Happy birthday, Off the Ball Network. Appreciate the love." Matter of fact, everybody watching and listening right now live, tomorrow on August the 9th at 8 p.m. Eastern, that's everyone that's in this room, are going to be celebrating the Off the Ball Network's 1 year milestone mark. We're going to celebrate. So please mark your calendars, mark your noties, all that fun stuff. Like, share, subscribe, rate, and review. We're going to have a good time. And there's going to be a lot of awesome guests popping by to celebrate with us. And then real quick, our very own Kenneth said, we're not talking about LeBron. Shocking. Let's just leave it at that. All right. So before we get into the next group, we have joining us now the young GOAT himself from the What the Game Means to Me podcast, the social media star himself, Jelani Brown,
with that.
has joined us again, joining us from tier 4 to tier 3. Jelani, what's up, man? How you doing?
Nothing much, man. Appreciate you, for adding me on. Like I said, I loved being on tier 4. I'm glad I can talk a little bit about tier 3 as well. Sorry for coming in a little late. Had our last tournament today. Luckily, we finished up on top. So
there you go. Congratulations.
Appreciate it. So definitely looking forward to talking about it. I heard, I seen it. I got to see it throughout the day. The John Morant talk on, the group chat. I try to keep up as best as I can because, if you leave, there's like 50, 60 messages and then pass by. So I try to keep up with it. I just heard Mo finish up his, his rant on it as well. And couldn't agree more. But like I said, definitely looking forward to hopping into tier 3.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and keep it here, right? So, again, JP, hats off to you, brother. You're doing your thing. Looks like you're still outnumbered here. But I want to point out in the group chat, I feel like Mo, Jelani, and myself were almost in the minority where everybody else seemingly was agreeing with JP that John Morant is a star and there's not 5 point guards that anyone would want to take above him. So, Jelani, we're talking about John Morant. What are your thoughts about me having him here in Demi-Star? Is it just right? Is it too hot, too cold? How you feeling?
I think Mo put it perfectly. That last line I heard right before I jumped in was he's the top of this list, but he's not out of this list. And, just like he said as well, I don't give or take from anyone that, that is around you. I know y'all also talk about Vucevic and if he possibly could be in the stars list because he looked, he's made 2-3 All-Stars on a bad Orlando team. Yep. So I kind of look at the same thing with John Morant. Like it's early in his career. And I feel like, yes, he has the makings of easily getting out of this tier. Like we can see him be a star, maybe MVP level within 2-3 years. Like he's shown the flashes, it's there. But overall, I think Demi-Star is still a solid place for him because, again, like I said, he's shown flashes. Like he still has a few things to work on, in my opinion, like talent level wise. I think his deep ball could definitely use a lot of work. Obviously, everyone loves him for his tenacious, driving to the bucket, dunks, all the highlights and everything that he brings, and just the aura around him as well. Like he's a star in the making, if that makes sense. So I personally think he is a Demi-Star. There's still a lot of things that he has to work on with his game, but I feel like this is perfectly fits with him because looking at the list of guys here, there's 40 guys here. I feel like there's a few guys in this, Demi-Stars list that I can argue that is, better than him, even at his position. I think at least right now, like I know the chat earlier was saying like 5 point guards you would want to build around, right? Like build around like for the future. Like obviously there's
different conversation,
guys,
right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Different conversation. So like right now, like going into next year, Mo just said it too. I don't think he's top 5 point guard right now, but like I said, he has all the tools in the making to be a star, like I said, MVP level at some point in his career. But I still think Demi-Star is, the right tier for him at the moment, especially looking at the names that surround him in this list as well. So definitely top of the list, but not out of the list yet.
Yeah, and again, JP, I'm going to turn it over to you. But before I do, I just want to say I don't think any of us are saying that because he's not a top 5 point guard yet means that we're not big fans of him. Not that we don't think that he's going to be, and not that he's already not a terrific player. You know what I mean? So that's where we're at. Before we move on to the second group of 20, do you have anything to respond back with? We'll give you the last word, brother.
I just want to know who's that player that was better than John Morant in this position that's a Demi-Star right here on this countdown. I want to know that player right now. Who is it?
Well, hang on. So
Who is it?
Go ahead.
I don't think that we've got to the names yet. So what we'll do is I'll read through the list of 20. I'll give it to Mo and Jelani. They'll make their case. And we, as much as I would love to dedicate an entire show to John Morant, we won't do that today. We'll go ahead and give a list of guys and we'll move on and discuss some of the other guys in this list. So carrying on from the second group of 20 here, we have John Collins and Clint Capella. Jelani, I'm sure that's why I keep having you come back. Some more of your Atlanta Hawks here on the list. Lonzo Ball, Ben Simmons, Gordon Hayward, Kristaps Porzingis, John Wall, Christian Wood, Victor Oladipo, Karis LeVert, Jaren Jackson Jr., D'Angelo Russell, Kyle Lowry, OG Anunoby, rookie Cade Cunningham, rookie Jalen Green, LaMelo Ball, Klay Thompson, Kemba Walker, and late addition due to lack of oversight by myself, but the correction was made, one of my personal favorite players in the NBA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So, Mo, you said that there might not be guys that you would take after John Morant, that John Morant might be better than a couple guys on this list in the same tier. Who are those two guys to you?
I want to know.
So there's two guys. There's two guys that I'm not saying I won't give or take the argument, but you're going to have to come to the table and come correct to convince. Bro, Jamal Murray and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander might be ahead of John Morant. Let's take away the playoffs. Take away the play. Like, see, the JP argument of, and I'm not saying Shai is flat out better than Ja. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is you can make a case that Shai is better than Ja. But you're going to look and be like, well, look what he did with Memphis. Well, let's take Shai and Ja off of Memphis. Let's play JP's game. Let's take Shai and Ja off of Memphis. Who's the better team? Like, let's take Ja off of Memphis, Shai off of OKC. Who's the better team? Memphis is the better team. So what Shai has done, when we talk about these lists, these are individual players and where we could see them on teams depending on, Steven, you said it, depending on what you think about them. Can they be the second best player? Can they be the third best player? Them being the third best player, does it depend on who's on their team? I'm not saying I won't listen to an argument that Ja is better than Shai, but to say that you would not listen to an argument that Shai is better than Ja would be, ridiculous. Steven, Shai is that dude. But then Jamal Murray. I'm not saying that these guys are better, but to say that Jamal Murray doesn't have a case to be better than John Morant, to me, is kind of crazy. If you don't say that he doesn't have a case, even if you say Ja is better than Shai, if Jamal Murray and John Morant, if it's not an argument where if you're a Ja guy and you're a Jamal guy, and one guy doesn't come correct, he loses the argument. If you don't look at that argument like that, then to me, I don't know what to tell you. Jamal Murray has a case, bro, of being, the fifth best point guard in the NBA. I know he's coming off his ACL injury, but bro, Jamal Murray and John Morant is not that far off, bro. They really not.
So I'll
personal opinion.
So I'll speak to your guys and then I'll turn it over to Jelani here. Me personally, as much as I love SGA, I would take Ja over SGA, right? I would take, but here's the thing. If we're going to talk playoff performances as to why Ja should be better, did we not watch the playoffs the season prior to where Jamal Murray was giving up 50-piece dinners to everybody who was hungry? Did we not just watch that year prior to where he was on a team with an MVP this year, put up 50-piece dinners for everybody who wanted some? We watched that, right? I know I wasn't the only one to watch that. So if playoff performances are going to be the biggest indicator as to where these guys are, I think that, Mo, what you were saying, that argument, you could make the argument for Jamal just like you can for Ja. And Jamal is the more, I would say, the better scorer, right? Like, what did he put up a 50? If I'm not mistaken, he put up a 50-point game without a single attempt in the paint, if I'm not mistaken.
Against Utah, the same team that JP gave Ja his credit for doing against. That's the same team with the same roster. I'm just saying, I'm not taking away from Ja. This is why I don't like having these conversations. Only because it seems like, it seems like you have to put one down to bring one up. That's why I say Ja, Shai, and Jamal Murray. If you bring all three of those guys to the table, and I have three guys arguing who is the better player, all three of those guys who are arguing for each player better come correct, because if you don't, you're going to lose that argument because, bro, they're all like right here. On a Tuesday night, Shai could be better. On a Wednesday night on ESPN, prime time, Ja could be the freshest in your memory. But then on Thursday night, Jamal Murray could come on, prime time on TNT, getting you ready for the weekend, and Jamal Murray dropped 35 with 8-9 assists, and he got you So I think all three of those guys, talent-wise alone, forget the circumstances. Let's just take these guys as individuals and bring them as talents and what they could bring to a team if I'm building a team. Bro, they're all here. It depends. If I do Wednesday, Thursday, Friday on ESPN, TNT, and then back on ESPN, they all could wow me the same way where recency bias gives me whoever played on Friday. That's just how I feel about those three guys.
Well, and so again, I don't think that SGA at the moment is there. There is one other player that I'm surprised that you didn't mention, Mo, but I'm going to give the young goat a chance to speak and see if he's going to talk about him at that same position.
Yeah, for me, I like both of those picks as well. I was looking at both of those names. But like I say, I guess it all really just depends on what the argument is. And if we're just talking about maybe just top 5 point guards in that position, like obviously it was in the first list that we were talking about, to me personally, and it kind of showed this year, and I tweeted about it and everything, just Drew Holiday. Everybody talked about how they give up too much for him. But in my eye, he was the missing piece. I guess a lot of us didn't realize outside of other factors and stuff that happened in this championship run. For me personally, I don't know. I love Drew Holiday. I love his game. I'm not going to say I'm not really doing the comparison between him and John Morant, because I guess before I get to that, I'll touch on what Mo said about the comparison with these three. Like, the regular season matters in a way to me. And statistically, I don't like to do this, but statistically, Shai was better than John Morant in pretty much almost all categories. But taking one over the other one, I think, with the arguments, whoever you're starting, your franchise with, who would you go with? And I think most people probably would go with John Morant. But personally, for me, I definitely see Mo's point as in, Jamal Murray, John Morant, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. All of them at any given night can pop off. They all have special talents to their games. And like I said, I don't think the argument is that far off. Like, if we always ranking them, I think no one gives you the same ranking and Ja's first in every single one. Like, it's gonna vary, and it's gonna probably vary depending on what people value the most. And that's why I guess I bring up Drew Holiday's point. To me, I feel like, in the Buck system, obviously he doesn't have to be a scorer, but I think he does a lot of things that I like personally. I love his on-ball defense. I love that he can get a bucket, honestly, whenever he wants. He may not be the most athletic. He may not be the most, name-worthy to shine. He's not the biggest star, whatever the case may be. But I personally think, especially after this season and this run, you can possibly, I'm not saying if we're going top 5, Drew Holiday is number 5 point guard going into the next year. But I don't even think John Morant's top 5 going into next year. But I personally do think, out of the list of the point guards and names that I'm seeing on here, if we're just talking strictly point guards, I think that is a name, along with Shai and Jamal Murray, that could possibly argue that is better than John Morant going into next season.
All right, so JP, before I give it to you, I can't believe I'm the guy that has got to bring up this guy, because the waves of the fade will make you seasick, and that is Darren Fox when he cut off the hair and now he's got the fade. And look at him now. Look at just this last season. If I were to tell you that John Morant put up these numbers, everyone would say everybody would say that if John Morant put up these numbers, he would hands down be a top 5 guy. But because this guy isn't John Morant, no one's even talked about him yet until now. De'Aaron Fox, 25 points per game, 7 assists, 1.5 steals, 48% from the floor, 32% from deep, which, if I'm not mistaken, is better than Ja, and 72% from the line, 4 rebounds a game. De'Aaron Fox, no love because he plays in Sacramento.
Yeah.
No love because he plays in Sacramento. Just put up 25 points per. And again, it's one of those things. Sacramento is not a great team. You know what I mean? But they were only a couple seeds down away from Memphis here. De'Aaron Fox needs to get more love and recognition. I personally like Ja a little bit more than De'Aaron Fox, just because I like his aggressiveness. But I also love De'Aaron Fox. He made my all-star snub team last season. And again, 25-7. That was just an insane season that no one really is giving any shine to. So JP, we're gonna give one more time. You asked for the names. We've given you SGA, we've given you De'Aaron Fox, and we've given you Jamal Murray with an honorable mention to Drew Holiday. What do you have to say to the group?
I'll give you credit on Jamal Murray because I forgot about him because I forgot he didn't. I forgot about him this season because he didn't play the playoffs or the rest of the regular season with the torn ACL, 50 piece and all that. I'll give you Jamal Murray. I'll give you Drew Holiday because I always said Drew Holiday is probably the most underrated player in the NBA. Yes. Yeah.
I'm not giving you Drew Holiday over John right now, but go ahead.
And he got a championship too as well. I always said Drew Holiday.
Giannis got a championship. I don't care.
That he still has a championship.
That's Giannis' championship.
Drew was a big part of it too as well.
Yeah.
You look at the
Drew
last
stepped up in those game 5 and 6 against us.
Drew Holiday had 20-something points, 13 assists.
Yeah, so he carried against us.
He was balling.
Bro, John makes the same. I'm gonna be quiet. Go ahead.
Let's let him work.
Let me let JP talk his stuff.
I'll give Drew Holiday credit. Darren Fox. People forgot about that. People sleep on Darren Fox and all that. He was actually on my fantasy basketball team and all that. Guy very underrated because he plays with the Sacramento Kings and everything, and it's a bad team. It might be different if he plays on you say like a Philadelphia 76 or something like that. He oh my God, he'd be phenomenal. But Shea, I'm just like. Now Shea is coming. I love Shea. I love his game. He really improved. He really caught my eye with him and Chris Paul and OKC when they made that playoff run together and everything. But I wouldn't put him over John Morant. I really wouldn't. Just because like I said, I love Shea to death. They gave him that max contract, well deserved and everything. But just to say, you can easily, if you put Ja with the, OKC and all that, you're probably going to see a little bit more individual statistics than, you see him doing individual stats than when you put Shea with the Memphis. So I just can't put him over there yet. I just need to see a little bit more from Shea though. So, but Ja's box office to me. He is box office to me. I'm not saying it because I'm from South Carolina and I'm a South Carolina guy and everything.
Bias.
But I'm not saying it, but I just think, I just love Ja, love his game. I know he's going to improve. And I can't with Chris today. The Mo Bayless. I'm sorry, but I just think Ja has, like you said, I didn't really understand the tier list at the beginning, but when you broke it down to me and everything, I understand how it's going to be. Ja will be a star one day and all that.
Hands down.
Hands down.
He will be.
He'll be a star one day. It's just it's hard because, like I said, the West is so loaded and everything. And like I said, Shea has potential too as well, but I still have Ja a little bit better than him and all that. I'm just saying. So,
all right. And my boy Darren Fox, no love from anybody.
I'll give Darren Fox. I'll give you Darren Fox. I'll give you Drew Holiday.
So Steven, can I just speak on De'Aaron Fox real quick?
Please.
I just want to say one thing.
I'm not the only one in the room doing it. Please.
Yeah. So I've said a lot of things about Ben Simmons, and so De'Aaron Fox is actually the reason why I say Philly just need to ship Ben Simmons over to Sacramento, but we ain't got to talk about him no more, and we can talk about a De'Aaron Fox and maybe a Buddy Hield. I think a Ben Simmons. And maybe even a Tyrese Maxey in a first-round pick can get you De'Aaron Fox, Buddy Hield. And I would love that swap. I wouldn't love it for Sacramento, but I'm not going to love it regardless. But I would love it for Philly. Y'all know I'm a low-key Philly fan. I love Joel Embiid. So, I want to see Philly do its best. And I think, man, you get De'Aaron Fox in Philly. If you're I don't care about Doc Rivers. I'm just talking about pairing him up with Joel Embiid, bro. I don't care about Doc, bro. I'm talking about pairing De'Aaron with Joel Embiid. I love Doc Rivers. If you could get Buddy, if you could swing a trade, if I'm Philly and I could get De'Aaron and Buddy, and I give up Ben, Maxey, possibly even Tybal and a first round pick for De'Aaron and Buddy.
You're gonna have to come with some more salary. You'd probably have to send Tobias if you're gonna bring those.
Yeah, I would say you're.
I don't know if I can do all that. I love Tobias too.
You got to play the cap.
I love Tobias. I love Tobias. I know playing the cap game because I love Tobias too. So
me too. He's a Demi-Star here on my list.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love Tobias, bro. I'm a big Tobias Harris fan. I love what he's done. I don't think I agree. Tobias, just to hit on him, I agree exactly where he's at. I think he'll be there no matter the circumstance.
Yeah.
But to have Tobias Harris on, like, I think he could be a key contributor on a championship team. But I think he's never, I don't ever think if Tobias Harris is your second best player, you can win a championship.
Yeah.
I fully agree that he's at Demi-Star and he could be your third best player. And maybe even you really have a championship team if Tobias is your fourth best player.
Yeah.
Like, to me, then you really got a championship team. So I definitely find him dead at Demi-Star. And I think he's the, we've talked about the guys who could be borderline up or, right where they're at or up. But I think when we talk about the definition of Demi-Star, I actually think Tobias is a guy who literally belongs on this list and is like the definition of this list because at best, he's your third best player on a championship team. Like, and that's how I love that Steven ranks him is like, if we're building a championship team or if we're just talking about championship teams, this guy is your third best player on the championship team. Tobias will never uprise that. He will never be a star. He'll never be your second best player. So I really think of all the guys, you can make cases for a lot of these guys, but I think him and even right now at this point in his career, I even think Gordon Hayward is at there. Where if he's your third best player, you got a championship contender. Yeah. But if he's your second best player, the best you probably can do is win a first round playoff series at best. Yeah. So I think those two guys of all this whole list is I think they're the definition of this list. And then you got a few guys. I even see Jaylen Brown. I think he's another guy. He can move up he can move up or stay. Maybe after this season you have him up.
Yeah, he's one of those guys with jaw.
He's one of those guys that can fluctuate, but only up. He's either here or he's up. That's it. Nobody on this list can fluctuate down. Maybe Oladipo and maybe even John Wall at this point in their career because of health. Yeah. That I would say maybe they float, can fluctuate up and down. And just real quick before, Steve, I know this is your show, but Domantas Sabonis is right where he needs to be. I know JP had mentioned him earlier. Bro, he's actually him, Tobias Harris, and to me, Gordon Hayward. Like, those three guys are right. They're the definition of Demi-Star. Bro, Domantas Sabonis cannot be the second best player on the championship team. I just don't think so. As good as he is, if he's your second best player, like I think his best fit on the championship team is the Golden State Warriors, which if we're projecting health, he would be the third best player on the Golden State Warriors, maybe even arguable fourth behind Draymond Green. But I think Sabonis has to be the third best player on a championship team. I think if he's your third best player, you can win a championship. If he's your second best player, you can win a first round playoff series. That's how I feel about Sabonis.
And it's also one of those things that we mentioned too earlier when you brought up Vucevic, Mo, right? That like he might be able to get away with being the second best player on your team, depending on what else is put around him, right? Like that same case that you made for Vooch. So I could, if you're going to talk Vooch, I can see Sabonis being that exact same type of mold. I really could because he's an all-star in Indiana, and you can argue that he was an all-star on a better team on that Indiana team than Vooch ever was on that Orlando Magic team, right? So there's a little bit of, latitude to be given with those. So, Jelani, one guy that I want to ask you about, right, is the guy that y'all just re-signed in John Collins. So I have him as a Demi-Star. I don't know if there's anything else that he can really add to his game unless he just gets like some Kyrie Irving type handles, right? Like, where I don't know if he can elevate any higher than being basically a Demi-Star. But again, we've already established that that's not a best place to live. Yeah. What do you think about John Collins and where I have him ranked?
I think it's, perfect fit as well, just because I personally, just kind of like what you said, like, I think the tools that he has obviously works for today's game, especially being a 4 in a stretch type 4. That's also athletic, plays, plays willing defense, is on the boards, whatever the case may be. Like, I think he can only get better at the things that he's gotten better at, but it's never going to be like he's going to jump to a star type level, because especially the system and type of system we play and type of offense we run and type of guys that's already on the squad. I think Demi-Star is probably the best he's going to get, which isn't in a bad spot. And I think personally, it was looking like, because at times before DeAndre Hunter got hurt this year, he was looking like going to be, he was our second option at times. Yeah, he was the second best player on our team at times. So we have young stars that's more likely up and coming, that's in the super starters that we talked about a few days ago, that has a chance to possibly getting Demi-Stars a few years down the line, maybe in the star category as well, to where John Collins is more likely not going to be, he's going to be our third best player at best, but a really high caliber, I guess, third player, if that does make sense, I guess in a sense, like a Tobias Harris, not play wise, but just how important he can be to our team. Because there's times that we've had to go to him, whether we have certain people in or out of the lineup, that he can get us a bucket. Like he's had 40-point games, or like one 40-point game, I believe, and like high 30 scoring games as well with, double-digit rebounds. But I think Demi-Star is probably the perfect fit for him. I don't really see him moving up, really at all in his career. I think he's just going to be a high-level Demi-Star, and obviously there's nothing in between. So, but all in all, that's good for me. Like I said, him paired with Trey and whoever else pops that we're expecting, the DeAndre or Cam, that's perfectly fine for him, for me as well, being in that Demi-Star category moving forward.
Absolutely. All right, so we're coming up to the end of it. Before we close, I just want to let everyone know that we are sponsored by MyBookie. Go to their website, and what they'll do is if you enter in promo code Off the Ball, they'll match up to 50% of your first deposit and up to $1,000 in cash. That's one of the best deals, if not the best deal, that you'll ever get in this industry. They have high credit card acceptance rates, and they give you fast 48-hour turnaround on your money. So go to their website, enter in promo code Off the Ball, and we'll win big together. All right, gentlemen. So tier 3 is in the books. And first off, before we close, I just want to say thank you so much to JP the franchise, Mr. Up in Flames, Mo Murphy himself, and the young GOAT, Jelani Brown, for coming on and lending their expertise and opinions and insights and intellect to the way that I view and dissect the game. Before we go, just want to remind everybody also that Off the Ball Network is turning 1 on Monday, August 9th at 8 p.m. Eastern. We will be celebrating. We're going to have a lot of fun guests pop up, and we're going to be sharing some of our favorite moments and memories and crazy takes and what have you. So it's going to be a good time. Be sure to tune, get your noties turned on for OTB_network on Twitter, and then Off the Ball Network on Instagram. So, fellas, I'm going to go right down the line. JP, starting with you. Why don't we let the fine folks know where they can find you and your work?
Yeah, man. I'm on Off the Ball Network on YouTube doing like recaps and different analysis and everything. I'm hopping on different podcasts you can catch. Me and Mo do NBA 2K League post-game shows Wednesday through Saturday until, the end of this month, especially with the playoffs. So you can catch us on Dash Radio around 11-ish Wednesday through Saturday. My YouTube channel, it's just JP with the Z and it's definitely, going up and all that. Just talked about the Lakers and how good they be this season. And you can catch me around Facebook. Oh, Justin Tatum, just debating. So
there we go. And thank you so much, JP, for coming on. Jelani, same thing, brother. Again, thank you for coming on. And why don't you let the folks know where they can find you and your work?
Of course, appreciate it for being on. Love being on tier 3, tier 4. Looking forward to stars when we hit on tier 2 as well. But you can find me on Twitter, tweeting live from the podcast page, WTGMTM podcast. This week, the NFL Smack Talk SmackDown should be ramping up. I think I'm doing AFC East and NFC South. And we may try to fit in another division as well. Justin, I know, is going to be on one soon. I think we might be doing the NFC North this week as well, if everybody's able to make it. So if you want to catch JP talk about some Vikings, well, definitely tune in this upcoming weekend. I'll tweet it out and everything. But appreciate you for having me on again, Steven.
Oh, man, honor is mine. I appreciate you coming on, Jelani. All right, Mo, same thing, brother, where they can find you at and things you got in the books, coming up that they can listen to, follow, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, 100%. First off, it's always great to link with you, Steven. It's Off the Ball Network Mondays. So make sure if you love what Steven put out, continue to listen and listen to Up in Flames next here on Dash Radio on Nothing But Net channel. But, follow me at Up in Flames Pod on Twitter, Instagram, Mo_Cheese15 on Twitter and Instagram. As far as future projects, we got, we got the AFC preview. We got the NFC preview. Coming up on Tuesday and Thursday. We got, top 5 favorite players you've ever watched in the NFL, top 5 favorite games you've ever watched in the NFL. We got the Off the Ball Network 1-year birthday. Keep it going. I got my guy Jordan Foote, over there doing great stuff with Kansas City. He coming on. I got my guy Dante Artist straight out of North Carolina, who just come off of winning a high school national championship at Wilson Prep. I got him coming on the show. I got a lot of things going. I'm keeping it moving. I mean, we're really moving from basketball season to football season and right back to basketball season, here in a couple months. So just make sure you go to offtheballnetwork.com for all your sports needs and entertainment. I mean, we got so much stuff. Like, I can't shout out everybody, but everybody knows I love them. I love their content. I check it out personally. So make sure you follow my steps and check out everybody's content. I mean, See You Sunday is returning.
Hey.
Jeff's Buckeye Remix is returning.
Yes,
Couch
sir.
Coach's Overreaction Monday is returning.
Power
Cruise
ranking.
Island every Wednesday is really going to vamp up during football season. Kenneth and Bars with the Fantasy Football Show. Like, if I give a shout out to everybody at the network, y'all would think we are the greatest 4-letter, sports network in the world, which we will be, because we will pass up the other trash 4-letter networks. So just continue to follow us, because everybody puts out great stuff. And make sure you follow Jelani's Smack Talk Showdown with conferences and divisions, because boy, that is something. It kind of takes the sports aspect out of everything, and it brings the fandom of teams into it, and it allows the unreasonable. The reason why we love the game of football, it brings the unreasonable fandom takes into it, and it creates for a great barbershop argument. It's an amazing show, so make sure you check into that. And obviously, continue to tune in to Breaking the Game, because my guy Steven does what he does. My guy Steven's a GOAT. And you know what? After my Up in Flame show, don't listen to Off the Ball Pod, because of the simple fact of what he said about the Cowboys stuff. So don't listen to him.
Yeah, so President Chris LeBron just wrote in Cowboys sucked it, and just on cue with the football smack talk that's going on. But as much as I tend to agree with what Mo said, please stick around after Up in Flames and listen to the Off the Ball.
It was a joke.
It was a joke. It was a joke. Some people may listen to you, because Mo,
friendly love, bro. Friendly love. They know.
Yep.
If they really know me, then they know Steven, they know Chris, they know what we do at the network. So if they really know me, they know I ain't mean that. Listen to Off the Ball right after me. He probably gonna do a better show, after me. The better show is before me right here with Steven on Breaking the Game. So I'm just the middleman. I catch the lob and I lob it up, between two great shows. That's just the guy. I play the middleman role. You know what I'm saying? I ain't the plug and I ain't the plug's plug. So just don't mind Up in Flames here.
All right. So thank y'all so much for tuning in. As you can see, we always have a good time when we all link up, Off the Ball Network family. We got the Nothing But Net here on Dash Radio family as well. Just please go follow what all these men are doing. Go follow Off the Ball Network anywhere that, sports are available. Off the Ball Network's covering it. We got golf. We got everything. I think Kenneth is like 7 straight winning weeks in a row with his article, right? So
Seven.
you can get that anywhere. So go to MyBookie, read Kenneth's articles, and listen to his podcast. And I promise you're going to walk away with a little bit of money. All right. So just go ahead and do that, and we'll win together. So for all these fine gentlemen, for the Breaking the Game show here on the Nothing But Net channel on Dash Radio, for the Off the Ball Network, for the game of basketball at large, we love y'all. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. We'll catch up with y'all next time. Much love, everybody.